Welcome to the Wisdom to Wealth podcast. Thanks again for joining us for another episode. This is a podcast where we interview the wealthiest business owners in the world to hear their journey on how they went from zero to success. I'm your host, Shamar Star Cox. I'm a TV producer and a marketing coach, and I help 6 and 7 figure business owners create binge-worthy content that attracts their followers and then converts them into customers. I am also the founder of the Convert Content to Cash Challenge, where I teach business owners how to create content that sells so that now you're increasing your visibility online and your profitability. So if you want to get access to it, all you have to do is DM the word challenge accepted on Instagram, and I'll send you a personal invite to the challenge. Today, we have the wonderful Desiree Cocroft with us today. She was featured in Forbes and TEDx for her amazing work as a leadership coach and consultant. She helps leaders and organizations overcome overwhelm, thrive, and achieve impact through personal growth and strategic leadership. As a speaker and consultant with Franklin Covey, she has trained thousands annually in trust leadership and goal achievement. But today, she's not here to talk about none of that stuff. I just wanted to love on her so y'all know what her background is like.
Yes.
She is going to talk about how she built her nonprofit organization to nearly $500,000, busting the myth that you can't make money while running a nonprofit. So welcome, Desiree. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, how are you? So good to see you.
Yes, it's so good to see you. Okay, honey, we have to get into this conversation because we were having a great conversation. Please tell us how you got started and how you were able to build your nonprofit to where it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself and two friends, we started our nonprofit 20 years ago. And we started it just because we desired to have a space for ourselves. So the nonprofit is a dance company, signature dance company. And we built the nonprofit because we all danced, we all enjoyed dancing, and we wanted to do it with other people in our community. And most of the dance that we did was inside of the Christian worldview of dancing, liturgical dance. And so we wanted to do it outside of church, and we wanted to be in a space where we could, express the things that we desire to express in community. And then all of us also did a lot of programming with girls and women. We did a lot of work on youth ministry together. We also all worked in nonprofit agencies in schools doing work with girls. So we've been in the community. So we wanted to have a space where all of that can happen. It could be a safe place for people to land. It could be a place that we can build a community of sisterhood, and we could really get really good at being dancers. Seeing that most of us hadn't been trained formally, we actually wanted to go and be trained formally. So we created a nonprofit with the money in our pocket.
Yes.
People that we knew. We were like, okay, who wants to be down with us when we do this? And so, like I was sharing with you, we never even thought as a business. We were in our early 20s, just doing something that we thought would be fun to do. And we all had regular jobs somewhere else. Also, most of us, we all worked in nonprofit for the most part for a long time as well. But this was something that was a passion place for us. And it wasn't until one day we got a request to dance somewhere and they wanted to pay us. And we were like, oh, this is like a legitimate business. Like, this is a legitimate business. And then after that, someone asked us to partner with their school to teach after school program. And then some people invited us to do contract work at their school during the day to make room for, they were making room for the arts in the school day because arts had been defunded so much. They didn't have enough art opportunities for kids to enjoy at school. So they were trying to supplement it by using outside contractors to come in and do work. And so that was like a really booming opportunity for us too. And so before you know it, we were racking up a lot more of our income through contract work. And we were still a nonprofit 501c3 because that was what we were taught. I say you, meaning me.
Yeah.
And I actually went to school for business, but always desired to do work in nonprofit. But I also desired to be an entrepreneur. And so when I found that, nonprofit work was something that was a lot closer to some of the passions that I had, that's kind of like where I plugged in. Hindsight 2020. Could we have done it differently? Yes. Do I regret doing it? No, it taught me so much. And it taught me that, to your point, you don't have to necessarily be someone that can't make a career out of it with the fear of not being paid. Well, I will say, like, we didn't think about it like that in the beginning because we all worked full time. It was a great side, hustle, so to speak, money. And I say side hustle loosely because it's not like a for-profit, but we were contractors, we were contracted to do work. So it was great supplemental income. When we all at some point worked for the organization full time, I'm from the Midwest. So like our salary wasn't a 6-figure salary for ourselves to be able to do it. So that's something to consider too, where we lived, where the nonprofit is, the standard of living is not the same as it is in like where I am now. I'm in Maryland, the DMV area. It's way different standard of living. So to be able to survive or live, like a livable wage, you may need to pay yourself more or raise more money than we did for us having that position. But given where we lived, it's something that we were able to do. And it's actually been something very, satisfying in our lives to know that it definitely changed my way of looking at nonprofit. Like, you don't have to be broke. You don't have to be someone.
Oh, you froze just a little bit. Did we lose you? Come back. Although you're back. You're back.
But hopefully you heard what I said. I just say it's benefits on both sides. So it just really depends on what your goals are. On this side of life, I felt like it was still a great thing to do. I think that the business that I currently have now, the for-profit business I have now, I would have started that earlier alongside of my nonprofit. That's probably what I would have done differently, honestly.
I love your story. And let me just tell you this, the energy that's coming from you is amazing. Like, you're glowing, you're radiating. And sometimes I meet nonprofit owners and they're exhausted. They're tired. They don't make enough money. But here you are busting this myth that's like, honey, you can make money from your nonprofit organization. There are different ways that you can do it, but you just got to be strategic. And I love that you called it a side hustle. We could even call it like a side hustle for charity, because in your heart, you didn't even know this was going to be a business. Like,
we did not.
You just wanted to help people dance. And then you started making money from it. And I love when the realization hit, oh my goodness, this is a real thing. Like,
right. And we have this ongoing joke. We were like, this is a legitimate business. Like, we got to send an invoice,
I love that. Like, it's just so amazing. And I can just see the joy in you have the best of both worlds, because you get to help people, you still get to make money from it. But not only that, you didn't just stop there, because now you started your for-profit organization. So it's like, you don't have to just only own one. Like, we see so many people who have multiple businesses. But you started with the nonprofit, it's successful, and now you have moved on to your next business. So I just thought that was so amazing. And I love that you're busting this myth. I think more nonprofit owners need to see this. And now I'm starting to think, like, one of the issues is probably they just don't know how to get funding, whether it's through, go ahead, you share, because you know more than me.
I have multiple thoughts about, I actually just did a LinkedIn post about this, because I was saying some of our reflections of being in business for 20 years. I think the biggest issue, and this is a nonprofit or for-profit, I don't care what kind of business you have, get your personal money together. Period.
That part.
Put your personal money together, because I think people struggle because they are struggling financially. And they jump into it without having a solid, this is how I'm going to make sure that I can internally be secure while I'm building something. And I think we have to let go of this thought that we have to jump ship in order to be an entrepreneur. I think I might have shared that with you. There was a time where I didn't feel like I was a true entrepreneur unless I quit my job. I started working for the world, doing all the things. And then, like, because I did that initially, and it's like, oh, wait, we don't have enough money coming in. I need to find another job. And I was like, okay, let's, reel back. Let me find another job. And at one point, I felt like I was a failure. Like, oh, I must be a failure if I have to, like, but who said that? Who decided? Marketing people out here probably decided, not you, but
right.
you can feel bad for doing the things
Mm-hmm.
that are just what needs to be done with your life, you know? So
Yeah.
I think like I think there's a struggle for because people are stressed about their personal finances,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they're stressed about their personal finances. And if they hire too soon, that's another thing.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
hire too soon, now you have this pressure of paying for a
Mm-hmm.
team that you can't afford to pay for. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
we stayed contracted for a long time because we wanted to be able to make sure whatever is coming in, that's how we're paying for people, versus having too many people on your team and then you're like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to make
Yeah.
that happen. So I feel like that's another thing. I think it's another myth that you have to charge very little for your services by
Mm-hmm.
being a
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit. There are nonprofits that still, have offers
Mm-hmm.
that are words of 4 figures, 5 figures,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a $10 a month because it's a
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit. Maybe if you're a huge nonprofit, like
Right.
Girls Clubs of
Yeah.
America,
Yep.
there are some very huge nonprofits, like
Mm-hmm.
they can subsidize their costs and they can have their memberships be super low because they're getting so much money from different places. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're just starting out, or if it's been the last couple of years, you're not getting money from those places. So you need to
Yep.
like put the ante on whatever your membership model is, if you have one,
Mm-hmm.
subscription model is, if you have one. Like you need to like up your costs, and think about who is the client that you're serving. Like in what way can you work with them so that you're creating some depth with that organization so that they can have more ways of requesting money from some of their
Mm-hmm.
areas of their pools of money. A lot of the work that we've done has been with
Yeah.
schools and after school programs. So the more that we have done depth with those schools, like they're able to find funding that works with the areas that they have gaps in. And if we can help fill those gaps, then it works out really well. But if you are not doing depth with different organizations, you can't have those conversations about like, how can we really make a difference in your school or in your community organization? And a lot of times they'll have money that is earmarked for certain things, but if they don't know what you all can provide, maybe being this total solution to them, they won't necessarily think about that bucket of money. And so like that's been helpful too.
Yeah.
How can you be like a full solution for an organization? And being able to not be afraid to charge more. I mean, I can't say the names of certain organizations, but there are some nonprofits that charge way more.
Yeah.
And they
I love it. You
Yeah.
just taught like a whole masterclass on how to get funding for your nonprofit in like 5 minutes. How to get funding for your nonprofit in 5 minutes with Desiree. Like that is so powerful. And what I love so much is I'm just mesmerized that when you're speaking, because I'm like, oh my goodness, like 20 years ago, this literally was just a side thing you were doing. And now you're the expert of like, oh, if you want to get funding, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, right? And I think that a lot of people get pigeonholed because they just don't know what to do. But it's not only running a nonprofit, it also happens as business owners. You said something that was so powerful that I had to type it in the chat, which was people struggle in their business because they're struggling in their personal finances. Like if you don't know how to manage your personal finances, you then start to manage your business finances the same way. And then you talked about hiring too early, which can happen, right? Like you start making some money and in your mind, you're like, okay, well, I want to start to alleviate some of the work so that I'm not doing it all myself. You end up hiring someone and then you don't have a full plan or a full system to keep them hired. Now, it could be a contractor or it could be staff. But you can find yourself having this pressure of like, oh my goodness, now I got to make more money so I can make sure I can keep paying this person. But that link between personal finance and business to me was just so powerful because I see a lot of people struggle in this area. And I mean, there's so many different ways they can do to rectify it. But when you brought that out, I was like, yeah, that's it right there. Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I love that that you were bringing that back up, because I think that it's really important to just consider like that hiring too fast. Sometimes we don't think about how we can, especially now, like even our organization, because we started so old school, we were grassroots, it took us a while to get from paper to electronic stuff, because we started so late in the game, with that. And so I think now even more so, versus hiring people, how can you automate that? Like, how can technology be bae? Technology can be bae. Technology can be your assistant for a while in the meantime. And instead of drinking the Kool-Aid, I think we drink the Kool-Aid and we feel like our business is official. A lot of these things are just, kind of like keeping up with the Joneses. Some of it is that element of like, oh, I have somebody on staff, or I have this and I have that. And it's like, but it's a struggle. And we've been there in 20 years. We've been there. We've overhired. Like we've hired more. And it's like, you know what? We don't really have the funding for this kind of setup. Like, we're gonna have to pull back instead of doing it the way that we've been doing it. So I think a lot of times you have to ask yourself, am I doing it? And another part is like having something that we've experienced. You can learn from all of our experiences, like having the experience of not measuring cash flow, and that's for profit or nonprofit, but we definitely had that experience of just cash flow, especially when, we're waiting on funders to, pay you got that net 30, net 60, net 90, but the programming hasn't stopped.
Okay, now that part.
Programming hasn't stopped. So like, I mean, as when I was being the executive director, there have been times where I had to take a pay cut. Thank God I had my personal finances in a way that it didn't. And that was a choice I had to make. That's not a choice that I'm proud of, but it's just one of those things that happen because I'd rather other people get paid than, And I mean, I'm sure there are many business people out here that have had to do that. You know what I'm saying? At a regard. So I'm just like, I think we can really take advantage of being more efficient. Like what are the things that we're doing in our business that are either revenue generating or not moving our business forward and just too time consuming, or just we're not in the place of our business that needs that aspect right now? Are we trying to grow our business too fast? The other part is like, well, could we automate it, right? Is it some kind of technology that can automate something that we are spinning our wheels, taking that time doing it? And then the last part would be like delegating. Like, is it someone that we can delegate it to? And notice like delegate is the last thing. This is from Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Work Week, that eliminate, automate, delegate. Delegate is the last thing, because if you don't get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter, and then if you don't have technology, then you start finding who can help me. But we look for the who too early. Like it's a book called Who Not How.
Who Not How. I knew you were going to say
I love it. I love that book. I will say my caveat is don't look at who. I would say look at what first, because it's like, what are you doing? Do you even need to be doing that what?
Yeah.
If you don't need to be doing that what, don't start looking for a who. You're going to start spending money on a who that you don't need, So I do believe the who not how. I would pace myself on choosing who's too early when you are not in a level of business that you need it. And again, drinking the Kool-Aid, shiny object syndrome, is status. I have a team. I'm paying all these people. We think we're not like that until we become like that. I've been that. You know what I'm saying? Like
that part.
Until you do it, you be like, you know what? I don't even need that. That's the same with like coaching, right?
Yeah.
I need this mastermind. I need this course. I need all these things. And you be like, I don't need this. Like, I could have done all of this. I could have saved my $100,000. And I could have like paid that $5,000 coach or paid the one person.
Girl.
Pay everybody every time you get rid of one thing, you pay for another. Like, you actually implement stuff. So
sis, if you don't stop preaching on this,
listen, I'm like, listen. I am in this. I've called this the year of getting back to myself. And it's been a year of getting back to myself because I have allowed myself to suffer unnecessarily from overthinking and analysis, and mostly because you think you see what you see, whether it's in the internet streets or in the real streets, or just as a result of all the things you've consumed. And like, I'm not giving myself enough permission to be okay with my own journey. And journey like everybody else is. And I'm just like, you know what is my definition of success? What is success? What's the simplest way for me to do things? And how can I like zero in on that and just like take the blinders, and just stay real focused and not worry about what other people are doing. And I find that the dance company, the nonprofit, it was and maybe because I was 20 years younger, but we didn't care. We didn't care about what we didn't know. We didn't care about how other people were doing things. We're doing things, you know what I mean? And then it's like you're in that time of life where you can really throw yourself into everything all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's something to be said about what's important in your current personal life so that you can make sure your business matches that, and don't try to make something your goal. Like if you might not want to grind to build a $5 million company. You might not want to do that. It's not wrong, but you just have to know that's not your goal, right?
Yeah.
If independent wealth is your goal, there's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah.
And it can be whatever you want. Yeah, please. Say more.
I love it. I mean, everything that you said, I'm over here like, can someone pass the collection plate, please? Because there was a whole sermon up in there.
Right.
But it was just so good because I love the book Who Not How as well. But I don't think people understand the context. Like this guy, he didn't even write it himself. Like someone else wrote it.
Right.
But if you look at his webpage, he only works with business owners who are making a minimum of, I think, a minimum of $250,000 annually. And I think I might be doing it on the low end. It might be 500,000.
Okay.
So at that point, yeah, who not how? Because you're already making $500,000. Yeah. But if you're someone who's just starting out and haven't hit six figures, or you did hit six figures, it's going to be a little bit harder to keep implementing those who's. That's why I like that you talked about, what can you eliminate? Because there are a lot of things especially when you're just starting out as a business owner, you don't know what to focus on. So there's a lot of things on your plate that you think is moving the business forward. But to be honest, if it ain't leading to sales, it's not moving the business forward, because you can't run a business without making any money. And I used to train a lot of new business owners, and oftentimes they would be focused on all the things that had nothing to do with making money. Like, I'm building a website. I have to get this link. I have to pay this. I got to get my logo. I got to get my business cards. And I'm like, for what? You have no audience who's buying from you.
Exactly.
You build a website that no one goes to. What is the point? And so I always share with them, like, if you're just starting out, keep it super simple. Have conversations with people and send them a Stripe link, send them a PayPal link. You literally don't need a website because ain't nobody going to it, right? No. And so I just really love that you talked about that. And that whole keeping up with the Joneses, I really think it comes from just not knowing how to run a business. Because I think about when I first started, I ended up joining this coaching program. Are you familiar with Myron Golden?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I joined his coaching program. He's amazing, by the way. I love me some Myron. But everyone around him is like millionaires. So you're looking at them, but let me talk about me. When I was looking at them, I was just starting out, I felt a little stuck because it's intimidating. But it's because I was measuring my lack of experience, like my 1 year experience against their 20-year experience or their 10-year experience. So they were able to build their business the way that they built it. And I'm thinking, this is what I need because this is what my coach is telling me. You need a funnel. You need this. You need this. You need this. Right. And sure, I got to implement those things. God was very gracious to me. He sent people to build these things for me. But to be honest, if I started over, I would rather have a coach that's like, this is your offer, which my very first coach was like that. Her name is Natalie Taylor. This is your offer. Okay, now go sell it to people, and then actually show me how to attract the people to sell it, right? Like, I feel like I jumped right into video marketing. It is my specialty. But there's another part that's missing when you're first starting, which is just reaching out to people and having genuine conversations. And I think a lot of business owners miss that part because of social media that just tells you, post your videos and they'll come to you. And they will, but it might take time. It's organic marketing. It takes 6 months, could take 9 months, could take a year, could take 2 years, right? And so what I see is a lot of business owners that are struggling because they're not doing the money-making activities in their business. They're doing she's doing that type of activity, so I should be doing it too. So I love when you talked about the keeping up with the Joneses. I thought that was important. And then you made this shift. You talked about, you started to eliminate all of those things. So what happened for you? Like, what happened for you in your life that helped you to make the decision, like, I need to get back to self?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think for me, it was what you said. So I probably have a couple of come to Jesus conversations with myself. Over the years, when I was the executive director of my nonprofit, one of the come to Jesus moments was like, okay, what is going to be the part where we can make the most revenue, and let's spend time considering, how we can close the gap in the areas we already have. So sometimes you think about, I got to create a new offer. And the consultant I was working with at the time was like, you don't need to create a new offer, close the gap on the offers you already have. Like, are your classes full? Is every instructor in a school? Right. And so that's where we spent our time. And so I think sometimes strategically you have to think, like you said, revenue generated activities, especially whether you're just starting, or I think at that time we might've been at like 200 or, at that time. So it's like, okay, well, how can we jump? Like we need to make that. And so I think you are in your business, you get to decide what that gap is, So if you're at 0, then it's like, okay, what are the things I can do to close the gap in the quickest way? And like for us, it was, who is the lowest hanging fruit? Who are people that are already our customers that can spend more with us? That's actually the easiest. People that already spend money with you. They already know, like, and trust you. Like those are the people. If you don't have customers, well, then who know, likes, and trusts you and knows that you have this expertise? Who's your low hanging fruit? Not just your friends, but people that you know that would identify as kind of like your avatar or somebody that you would work with. I think I spent a lot of time when I went into coaching. Like I've been a coach most of my life. Like my first job, I was 17 and I was a mentor coaching kids. And I just kind of gradually started working with adults over the years. But when I started my LLC, it was like 2012. And I think the biggest thing was, this is before online courses and online coaching was something that was big to me. I was so enthralled in the nonprofit world. Like I had no idea that this world was brewing. I wasn't like a doctor. And so like most of my work was outside of the walls of the camera. I was in my community because people in my community knew who I was.
Exactly.
So I got contract jobs. I did a lot more consulting than I did coaching early on because I knew people and they knew the work that I did. So I would do work with them in the community. And then that kind of helped open me up. So just being able to know like how to close the gap in the things that, you do well. And so coming back to myself, fast forward now, I think that I spent a year, and last year would be my year. I spent a year in my coaching business and working full time for Franklin Covey. And while I was working full time, I made like $80,000 while working full time. And the way it came was serendipitously. it had nothing to do with what any coach ever told me to do. And literally, and it's like not even a secret. I know I heard God tell me to get on Upwork. I got on Upwork, found a job on Upwork. That was nearly half a year because of that one contract. I went to a conference to speak. Someone wanted an executive coach, and they were like, I really loved you. I watched all your stuff before you spoke. I'm so excited about hearing about you. Became my first $25,000 executive coaching client. And then other things were like smaller opportunities. I spoke for free somewhere. Somebody else picked me up to do like an online speaking gig. You know what I mean? So it was, what I mean is that the funnels, everything that was being, I didn't make any money doing any of that.
Wow. Not
$1. Not $1. Not even one. As a matter of fact, I wasted money.
Wow.
I wasted money to learn a lesson. And my lesson is getting back to simple, getting back to myself, getting back to trusting myself. And I'm not saying that any of those things are wrong. They just weren't what I needed to be doing. And so many things were being said to me that I was just throwing spaghetti at the wall with, honestly, like, what is God telling me to do? And that's what I need to do. And if I can get quiet enough and stop hearing all the noise, I'll know exactly what I'm supposed to do and not be caught up and feeling anxious that, well, maybe that's not it. Let me talk to this person and this person and this person. And honestly, we're just looking for confirmation bias.
That
and the confirmation is, I don't believe in myself. So I'm looking for people and they're telling me to do something opposite, but why should I be surprised? They're only reflecting how I'm feeling.
Exactly.
Reflecting my own fears and reflecting my own thoughts. So then you go on that and then you realize it's wrong, but it's not because of them. It's really because of you. You went to them to confirm your fears and you operated from that place. And so I'm coming back to myself. It's just like, no, I hear God. I know what I'm supposed to do in a given time. I don't need another class, another tip, another tool. Like there are instructions I've already been given, and I just need to be steadfast in the instructions. And that's to myself. Like if I'm real about it, like what is kind of like going back to the basics. That was actually a thing in our dance company 2 or 3 years ago. But that was like our theme for the year. Like get back to the basics. Like what is the thing, and like staying true to that. instead of this get rich quick or trying to accelerate faster than you need to. It's like, calm your nervous system down. Just stay consistent on the things that you heard you need to be doing.
Girl, we gotta have you back because
I want to come back.
I'm like, you are amazing. I mean, you just shattered a lot of coaching programs and funnels and systems. And like you said, it's not that it don't work, because it does work, right? But what have you been graced for in this season? I want to share something. I know we're about to be a little bit over time. But this year, my goal was to scale my business, right? So I said to God, I prayed one prayer. I said, Lord, send the clients that will pay in full. That was my prayer for the year, right? And then, thank you. It's a powerful prayer. But that's not what I got. I got the clients who was just like having the worst life ever this year. I mean, people were getting divorced. People was about to lose their house. People was about to lose their car. People's children was in the house. I mean, it was crazy. I'm over here like, Lord, what's going on? And now I'm like, I'm like, this not aligning with the prayer I prayed. So I'm like, what do you want me to do? And I felt myself pouring out so much and getting very little return. So it was starting to frustrate me. So I had to shift my audience, which I'm okay with, because I wanted to shift my audience, right? I shifted my audience. I implemented running ads. So I was running Facebook ads. I was paying $1,800 a month for these ads. Ask me how much money we made for these ads.
Nothing.
Girl, nothing. We ain't make no money for them ads.
I already know.
I was like, what in the, why are we not making no money for, we probably made, okay, let me not downplay.
I hear you,
$300, $300,
but very little. Like, it was
not worth it.
Yes.
It wasn't worth it. And then I implemented lots of different marketing strategies, right? Now, I will tell you this. God was the one telling me, do this, do this, do this, do this. So I was doing this, and none of it was working out. And I'm now side-eyeing God like, you looking real fraudulent. You looking real fraudulent because you telling me to do this, and this. Ain't none of it working out, right? And so I remember having a hard conversation with him, like, I did everything you asked me to do, and ain't none of it work out. And then he said to me, you ain't start the podcast. And I'm like, why you always got to be all up in my business?
Right.
That was the one thing I was like I wasn't trying to avoid. I was putting it off because I was like, well, I could try all these other strategies first. Anyway, I finally started the podcast, and I'm actually enjoying myself now. But I bring all of this up to say is that the strategies do work, but what are you graced for in this season? Like for me, I was really graced to do the podcast probably all year. I probably should have implemented that before I implemented anything else, and I probably would have saw like different results. And you were graced to be on stages. You were graced to be on Upworks, right? That doesn't mean that later on funnels is not going to work, automations, like all these things are not going to work. But it's just, what did God grace you for in this season? And you said it. I won't even repeat it.
I know, but hearing it again, I'm like, that's so good. Like, you know how you feel like you caught something new? I was like, oh, that's good.
Because that's what. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, no, it's been good because honestly, so I do. So I know I have a lot to say about like, now you need to have mentorship and coaching. I agree. So I have a coach. So anyway, I said all that. Of course. I have a coach, but I think it's just important to just know what kind of coach you need. And so like the coach that I have now is who I really needed in my life right now to get back to self. And so that's why I said what you said back to me was really good, because the coach that I have now, we just actually finished our session, so I'm done. I'll still follow her, but like we're done now. But the point is, she got me back to self because a lot of what I know to do, which is be on stages, whether I'm creating a virtual stage or a real stage, I always say I thrive live. Like that is going to be what I know God uses. And then I felt myself, even knowing that, being anxious that wasn't enough. And so like that's what would lead me to like, okay, well, what's the marketing? What do I need to tweak? What's the, oh my goodness, I hate lead magnets. I know I shouldn't, but I do. Like, it's like one more person asked me what my lead magnet is that has never brought me a customer. Never. I have spent money on lead magnet. Every time I create one, it's like, girl, like, why you keep making it? I'm not, like I said, it's not that they don't work. I'm subscribed to lead magnets. But ask me, has anybody ever paid me because of, no, they have not paid me because of a lead magnet. It's like, I don't care. And so, like,
I love it.
To talk about this stuff, like, for real. So she really helped me because she's like, all she did, and that's why I'm glad I hired her. Like all she does is video. She does video content. Like she only does email content to her current list of buyers about the next thing she's doing. But she only does video content. She started on TikTok because it was the pandemic. So after TikTok, she blew up on TikTok because during the pandemic that was a big time. But then she moved to YouTube because she said she really liked the style of YouTube because it was more actually know who you are. They get to know your style more. TikTok is too short form, but that was just cool. She was working at the time, so it just worked out for her. But then she moved to YouTube, and a lot of them followed her over there.
Yeah.
But, she just hit her $1 million mark earlier this year.
Yeah.
After 2 years of doing the work, and all she did, she worked full time, and the only thing she did was do video. She didn't like do funnels. She didn't pay ads. She did, and she's a Christian as well. And I think it's another thing about, okay, what is God telling you to do? Like
that part.
To spend whatever it is that you need based on following that. And I think we need to get better at like being still enough to hear what he is telling us to do. And when we hear what he's telling us to do, faint not. So I said, what I said, and you said back to me, it felt good to me because I was like, oh, this is just another confirmation that sometimes it's hard to just do what he told you to do when you're like, but I haven't gotten any clients through doing this yet.
Girl.
Clients, but I haven't gotten any clients from doing this. So it's that part like, am I wasting my time? Like, blah, blah, blah. I enjoy it though. And so I'm like, as long as I'm enjoying it, kind of like he's like, you're enjoying the podcast. It's kind of like, as long as I'm enjoying it, I'm going to keep doing it. But in the back, I'll be like, okay, God, help me know that this is still like.
Yeah.
But I know it is. It just takes time to kind of, like you were saying earlier about organic traffic. Like it just takes time for it to rev up or whatever. And so like I'm just being in a place of like resisting like doing something different, like letting it go, like not being consistent because I feel like I haven't gotten from doing this specifically yet. And so instead of so someone told me, and my coach actually told me this, like instead of focusing on the outcome of clients, just focus on the consistency and the growth of it. And then just put yourself in the space like clients are already there. Like if clients were already coming, how would you show up to the video? If clients are already coming, like how would you operate in your business? And it makes you take on a different energy, a different enthusiasm. Like if you had tons of people coming from this, what would you do? And then, she was bringing back the point, which I think is really helpful for all of us in these spaces, is that you're already giving value to people on camera right now, whether they pay yet or not. Like you are talking to people, you are helping people. So think about it from that perspective versus like, is this working? When is this going to work? Like, calming your nervous system. So I'm like, I thank God I have other clients because otherwise I ain't got time to do this. That personal finance part, you gotta be, you don't have like that security financially, it's gonna be frustrating no matter what.
It's true. It's true. I love that you talked about this because I built my big business to 6 figures just by doing video. Like I had a whole video strategy that I used last year. It was 2-part video strategy that I teach my clients now so they can build their business too. And this year I was feeling like, well, the algorithm has shifted. So I felt like it wasn't working as well as it was working last year. And so I then started feeling insecure. Like I need to implement this strategy, that strategy, this strategy. Only for me to come back to, girl, no, people buy when you talk and you're on video. So when you said that, I was like, that's it.
That's
my personality. That's it. Video. So let me ask you this final question. Let's talk about your new business because you started a new business, right? It's a for-profit organization. Tell us how you help people, and for those who are watching now, how they can reach you. I'm going to drop your links in the chat while you speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is Destination Life, and basically it's the Desiree Cocroft coaching experience. And so I love helping entrepreneurs and leaders really master their confidence and communication grow their income by growing their business, and really learning to live well, to have a life that is aligned to their purpose and their mission. And so I do that through one-on-one coaching and strategy or executive coaching experiences. And so I do that with, again, individual solopreneurs or people that work in, larger organizations. And so those are the main ways that I help people and help businesses. And then, I am a keynote speaker and author, so I enjoy doing keynotes and speaking to audiences, workshop style or keynote style. So that is the work that I do now. And then I have, courses. I have online programs that people can be a part of. The one that I actually have currently is called Identity Shift. So that is really good for people that are looking to shift who they are and what results that they want in the upcoming year. And so a lot of the work that we do is around getting past our limiting beliefs, being steadfast about who we are going to step into being, like really being in a place where we can step into the authority that we have as a leader, and really dealing with the things that I typically attract high achievers and people that have pleasing tendencies. And so because those two people are typically attracted to me, I usually help them become better at their gravitas so that they can have more freedom in their personal life and in their professional life, because they know how to communicate their boundaries, communicate what they desire, and not worry about changing who they are for other people.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so I dropped Desiree's links in the chat. She has her one-on-one Elevate session. If you want to get access to that, you can just go ahead and click the link right there so that you can talk with Desiree. You already see her personality. She's amazing. She's built a successful nonprofit. She's building a successful for-profit organization. I don't know if y'all caught this, but Desiree definitely said while she was working a full-time job, sis made $80,000 on the side.
Listen.
Okay, so if you are working a 9 to 5 and you're like, okay, I need to know how I can elevate, talk with Desiree. She can help you out. She also has this freebie right here, which is this one is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Remix your mind, the lie, the truth, and the proof. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is actually, I just gave it to a client the other day. So I love this. The remixing your mind is really about limiting beliefs and how limiting beliefs are just lies. I mean, honestly, they're limitations, which means they're a lie because it's a limitation that we made up in our minds. And so getting those things out of your head, I think are really important to take it out of the subconscious mind and put it into the conscious mind so we can be intentional about how we rewire our brain from a neuroscience perspective. So the lie, the truth, and the proof is really just a tool that you can use to think about, like, really brainstorm or spill out what are all the lies, what are those limiting beliefs that I keep telling myself, and then telling yourself what the truth is. So the limiting belief is I'm not a great speaker. That's a lie, right? The truth is I'm an amazing speaker because it comes out of me like the living water, whatever, rivers of water, right? And the proof could be is because, the way that I feel when I speak, I notice the reaction of others when I speak. I love when you can pick something that is more self-validating. So that's why I say, I love when I feel when I do this, or it comes naturally to me. You can use things that are external, but I do encourage my clients to find things that are internal, because as high achievers, we typically look for external to make us think that something is okay. Like we're looking for the gold star, we're looking for the A. And I really like to help people get away from that. And so that's the proof. And then the proof could, be for me is like, what God says about me too. So I've used that. I've used other people to be the proof. It could be external, it could be internal. But then ultimately, I like to have people create a affirmation or something that they're going to start telling themselves to reframe their mind. And so it's like, I'm a good speaker because I know this to be true. God said I was this. This is whatever. You make it up. You make up whatever you want to say. But I encourage people to make I am statements about themselves. So this is just really a practice, a routine. You can reuse it. I always find that it's very helpful. I've used it for myself.
Yeah, very powerful. I mean, we have to rewire our mind because for a lot of us, we've been bred in this type of negativity and we harness negative thoughts every single day. Like, it doesn't matter how successful you are, there's always going to be a voice that tells you you ain't good enough, you're not worthy enough. When you start a business, your trauma starts to come out. So really having this, the lie, the truth, and the proof can help you. It can become a habit that you practice every single day so that now you're challenging your thoughts you're not allowing them to run rampant in your mind. And
Yeah.
I feel like this aligns with the scripture that says to take every thought captive, right?
Yes.
Because now in this moment when they're addressing the lie, you're taking it captive, right? And then what are you doing? You're casting it out. You're replacing it with the truth. And now you have evidence. That evidence is important, because oftentimes we tend to collect evidence of the lie, and we'll be like, no, the lie is truth because of what happened in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
When you collect the evidence for the truth, right, now you can stand firmly on that. So I think these are two powerful offers. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is this a freebie? Because you said you don't make money from freebies. So now I'm laughing over here.
Typically, but anything can happen.
I love it. Desiree, you are so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Yes. Thank you to everyone who has joined us on this podcast episode. Everyone is writing in the chat and saying this was powerful. This was amazing. Right? So we will be back again tomorrow with another Wisdom to Wealth podcast episode. What we always say when we're ending this episode, when we're ending our podcast, is grab the wisdom that you got today, plant it, because they are seeds so that you can grow fruit, which will be the wealth. So you all have a great day today.